childbirth is not a medical event, but rather an initiation of a woman's, like I said, intuition, trust, and power. Let's get into it because this is gonna be deep. So before I actually start this video, I'm going to be referencing something that I saw in an article today, okay, which led me to creating this video. I was so curious, and I did read this before, but I really wanted to know, like, when was it, like, so that I can catch, like, how can I say, like, a timeline. And I know it was recent. I know that industrial birth, medical birth, is recent in comparison to how long women have been giving birth, right? It's ancient. So before industrial birth, I'm gonna read you a bit of this, and I'm gonna read it to you because I didn't write everything down. It's on my phone. And if I had like a separate phone or like a computer right now, I could read it to you right here on the screen, but I don't. So I may have to cut this out and just show you the article as I'm speaking over it and as I'm reading to you. All right, I'm going in. Women-centered childbirth practiced by apprentice midwives played a pivotal role throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. The same was true on American soil until the 20th century. In colonial times, midwifery reflected women from all backgrounds, including enslaved black women who worked as enslaved midwives in the antebellum South. In this tradition, midwives learned through apprenticeship from experienced older midwives. They traveled to homes to care for mothers and their babies. Midwives were critical to their communities and often the only primary care providers. They put forth all of their skills to care for women in this tradition, which included well-being manifested through physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects. The rise of obstetric medicine, a stark divide began to take root in the 1800s when white male physicians began to explore childbirth with greater interest. Their approach was based on a colonization framework, which devalued birth as ceremony and focused on the physical aspect of well-being. Many doctors opposed midwife-assisted births. They launched campaigns against the profession, promoting Western science and the pain relief that hospitals could offer. By the turn of the century, they attended approximately half of births, despite having little training in obstetricity, whatever the word is, I can't pronounce it. In rural America, however, midwives continued to attend births. In the southern states, black midwives, sometimes called granny midwives, attended up to 75% of births until the 1940s. A combination of laws, educational restrictions, and campaigns against the profession led to the dismantling of their practice. Midwifery in the 1910s to the 1920s. Several important milestones happened in the early part of the 1900s that had a profound impact on midwifery. In the 1910 Flexner Report recommended hospital deliveries and the abolition of midwifery. The study has been recognized for its racist, sexist, and classist approach to medical education. Twilight sleep was introduced in 1914, an amnesic to women preventing memories of giving birth. In 1915, Dr. Joseph DeLee, a prominent obstetrician, called pregnancy and childbirth dangerous and evil, promoting the use of forceps, sedatives, and other interventions that needed hospital-level care, and he argued that midwives were incompetent. The Department of Indian Affairs passed legislation that moved births from the home to the hospital. The Shepherd Tower Infancy and Protection Act became a federal law in 1921. It encouraged states to develop their own maternal and child health legislation. So there's just so much evidence and disruption that women have been led to believe about childbirth. So this is the time where nurse-midwifery was born. But I am going to start just reading this from what I wrote in my journal. So before industrial birth, I'm just going to give you a background. Birth belonged to women, essentially, before industrial birth. Women have birthed their babies in their own homes, either their choice to be alone or to birth alongside other women, other wise women, such as grandmothers, their sisters, midwives. Before they became nurses, essentially they were called granny midwives, okay? And these were women that were aware of the process of birth, okay? And their spouses, of course. So industrial and medicalized birth started not very long ago, like I said, compared to how ancient women-centered childbirth began. So it started in the 1800s. Women-centered birth started to be meddled and interfered with by quote, white male physicians. And I don't like to I don't like to specify the ethnicity of somebody. But in this case, as you can see, it was white male physicians. They began to explore childbirth with greater interest, and their approach was based on a colonization framework, which devalued birth as ceremony and focused instead on the physical well-being. See, Papa, see. Many doctors opposed midwife-assisted births, and they launched campaigns promoting Western science and pain relief that hospitals could offer. And I'm going to get into the details when I read over the article to you. So as you can imagine, after reading this, I was like, this just got deep. And I knew this has been deep, but this just got deep because you realize colonization happened in every aspect of life. Every aspect of life. And this right here that I am sharing here with you on YouTube is childbirth, which belonged to women. Okay, so this has been taken from us. When birth has been taken from women, and after I read this article, this just alarmed me and got even deeper in my purpose and what I want to share with all the women across the whole world is when it comes to birth, it was originated outside of the system, okay? It belonged to us. Women knew how to already give birth, okay, before doctors came in the picture. And so women over time began to be indoctrinated, right, and fed with fear in the mind that we would not be safe without the doctor's permission, right? And so, you know, without surveillance, without ultrasounds and tests and etc. and all that external tasks and external tests, which is an illusion. It's an illusion of safety, okay? So we all know at this point, and if you don't, the mind's need of survival at all costs, okay? It is a human survival mechanism that the mind needs to be safe, okay? And so it's very easy to deceive the minds of masses with fear and deceptiveness, and it's just the minds are susceptible to fear, okay? And if you believe it, if you believe in fear and these fears and these lies and all this stuff, you know, we're choosing a life that is interfered with. Essentially, we're choosing to be interfered with, and that is essentially you're interfering with God, okay? You're interfering with nature, with God's creation, period, blank. And so it's a human survival mechanism, and they know this, okay? They know this. And so it's easy to deceive the minds of the masses, like I said. And so birth requires you, regardless, at the end of the day, we all have to face mortality, okay? And this is in all area of life. This is life in general. We have to face the fact that, you know, we're not going to be here forever, and birth requires us to face that. And it requires us to face the fears and the stories in our minds as well. We may not be able to stop fearful thoughts, but we do have a choice. We have a choice if we want to live with trust, or we want to live with fear. Fear, if anything, is just a doorway, is a gateway, and if you just stand behind the gateway constantly afraid, and you don't even touch the door to open it, you're missing out so much of what could have been, so much of what life can actually give you and offer you and stuff. And so that's where all the gifts and the miracles come, is behind that gateway, behind that door, if we just open it and just trust. Are you serious? And so this was me. I had a deep desire for a home birth, and I did not want anybody to witness me except the person I trust the most with in my life is the father of my child, okay? And that was the only one who assisted me. He was the only one that assisted in my birth. If anything, emotionally, he gave me that physical safety. But that spiritual safety, let me tell you, is what I had to cultivate within myself, right? The stories in my mind, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, that's the spiritual aspect. And so I'm going to get into that. So this trust comes really, really deep inside of us, and you still trust even if everyone outside of you is criticizing you, judging you, and spewing all the things negative that is opposite of that trust deep within you, right? So everything outside of you, every negative thing to say about you and about how you feel. But the truth is, right? The truth is, birth belongs to the mother that is birthing the child, okay? And if you don't know this, you will be always not wanting to step on other people's toes, not, always wanting to please others and be afraid and have everybody be right, but you, okay, right? So yes, women are utilizing the medical system for a sense of inner safety, okay? But the false diagnosis, the tests, the ultrasounds, right? The medical system specializes in finding something wrong, and so you're gonna leave that place losing your safety. You're not even gonna feel safe anymore. You're gonna feel drained. You're gonna be filled with, fear and all sorts of stuff, and just unsafe. That's the core need, right? That's the core need of everybody. But in this case, it's women, okay? This is gonna give you stress. Inevitably, the medical system is gonna leave you with stress, false diagnosis, like I said, and it's just a common experience. And I know in my case, I went in for an ultrasound, and I did want to see the baby. I did, but I wasn't really concerned about his health, right? And I did not want to hear anything about blah 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 blah, whatever, because internally I felt great. I had no pain. My emotions were high. I was feeling amazing, and I was happy. I was truly happy with my partner, and the fact that we are expecting. And so what even gave me even more excitement was finding out the gender, right? But I know that next time around, if God willing, I end up being pregnant again, I won't get an ultrasound, okay? I will respect the gender reveal, because that's not really something I need to know, right? That's just something our heads want to know, per se, but it's not necessary, okay? So that's really the only thing. After that, I did not want to come back because the provider said something that left me uncomfortable. And, I feel like I don't even have to elaborate more on that, okay? I just didn't want to go back. And so I kind of knew deep down that this is not it for me. And I knew what was going to be expected of me as well if I continue. So, like I said, safety is a core need. And so I'm going to go into physical safety and inner safety, right? That spiritual side So physical safety, if you're feeling safe physically, right, our lives, with our relationships, financially, do you feel safe? And a lot of us do feel safe physically, and we're good, financially, and we're good. We have all the things physically, but the thing that is lacking within us that we can find in society is that spiritual safety. It's more so in our minds, right? And a lot of it, a lot of what society does sell and all this stuff is fear. Is a lot of fear, okay? A lot of it. You can find a lot of fear, go on the news. First thing you'll hear, I'm sure, it's something very, very negative, and it's always something to be worrying about, right? So, spiritual safety and believing in the mind and stories of fear, worry, instead of trusting in God and trusting in nature and the design. Okay, right? So why do we feel unsafe to the point where we are in need of constant validation, of constant external reassurance, right? Like tests and ultrasounds and constantly Googling something. Oh, is this literally everything, right? Just too much excessive research. And so now this is going to bring us to the intuition, right? Into our intuition, that inner safety. And this comes from deep within us, like I said, that is beyond the mind, beyond thoughts, right? This is deep in our heart and in our soul. Okay, and so it goes straight to the roots where our beliefs are, our beliefs about our life, about ourself, about life in general, about what we believe. Okay, and these beliefs can come in the way, most likely come in the way between you and God. All right, and so this requires inner reflection. Okay, self-discipline, which is a form of love, self-love, right? And awareness of your thoughts, your bodily sensations, and your actions, etc. And so until then, we will habitually seek external reassurance for a short-term fix. Until then, if we don't dig deep into our deep inner reflection, into the guidance of our intuition, our God-given intuition, right? Of the voice of God constantly speaking to us, okay? We're going to get that we need that short-term fix externally, because we may put out excuses. We don't have time to go deep. I can't stand still. I can't be still. I can't, I don't feel anything. I'm afraid, right? I'm stressed. And so constantly thinking. And so that's the issue right there. But it can be solved, and that's the thing. And so when the body is disrupted during birth, it's fear-mongered, put on a state of a time limit during labor. It no longer feels safe. Like, just imagine, right? We can compare this to sex. If y'all constantly talking and thinking about and being all logical, you're not gonna open. It's just not gonna be pleasurable. Like, get out the head, get into the body. And it's the same with birth, okay? So you no longer feel safe. The body's tense. The womb can't even open. It stalls labor now because it's a mechanism to protect you, because you feel unsafe in an unsafe environment. That's in nature. Same with animals. If they're gonna feel unsafe, they're moving somewhere else to birth, so that the body can now open and relax, right? And so it can be many various things that the primal body can see, can notice a threat. It can be little or big threats, and it can be anything. And this is why I knew I wanted to birth at home, because I know that I would find billions of threats, okay? It's just as well who I am. I'm a very private person, and I'm very reserved, and I like my peace, and I kind of don't like too much talking either. And my trust, not even my trust, but yes, my trust, but the feeling inside of me speaks stronger than words I can explain. So And if you understand, you know. So one of the threats can be too many people watching you, right? It can be too much people in your business, too much people watching you, right? It can be doubts from the care provider or the nurse or whatever, too much stimulation, too much light, too much noise, threats like a C-section, you know, time limits, comments, too much condescending, unnecessary comments, and the needle, all right, the needles, the IVs, whatever. So when the body feels safe, it blooms open, okay? And so the body tells the truth. The body is going to shut down to a logical mind, period. And filled with too much fear, doubts, and insecurity, it's just too much, okay? The body tells the truth no matter what the logical mind is saying. So we need to really tap in and listen. And so trusting your body, trusting in God, in nature, is a constant practice every day. It's not just in birth, but in every day, okay? And in every day, there's always, how can I explain? So there's always going to be pain. There's always going to be loss and grief. And so we can cope better with this trust, right? With this sense of deep inner safety and spiritual safety and peace within our minds, because regardless, we have to face all of it, mortality. You can face mortality in the hospital, all right? So whether you're pregnant or not, again, this is going to allow you to look at your life, to really, really dig deep at how you've been responding, and to realize and just to remember the truth. And, you know, I'm here to be a guide, right? I free birthed my baby, and I just really want women to feel how I felt. I felt like my power awakened. My intuition was spot on, and I just want to keep, because this transcends in all areas of life and all aspects of life. And birth is such a spiritual, symbolic meaning, right? And it can be, you can birth a project, an idea, it doesn't, anything, right? A relationship. And so this goes hand in hand, right, with every aspect of life. And just remembering the fact that childbirth was colonized. It was. And so, remembering our power. And it's like, it's so funny. It's just, it was such a deep reason as to why it was colonized. It's because birth shows, and birth is straight connection to God, straight connection to where we came from, okay? That is why. And this world isn't set up, it's not created the way God intended it to be, okay? And so we have to bring that. We are the ones, right? We are the ones to remember how God intended for life to be, for how childbirth to be. And so I'm here as a guide. I'm not telling you there's one way. I'm not, saying this is the only way you birth, and it's not a hierarchy or anything. I am simply here wanting to revisit and to remind women of the power that God gave us, okay? And the power of our wombs, the intelligence. And so I'm going to end it here. And I send you all so much peace and love from me and my baby.